Hey beautiful, you are welcome back again to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how I made this native shirt for my son. He really knows how to model. Just look at him turning around, sampling the shirt. I'm sure he loves it. You can also use the same technique to sew for an adult male. You will still achieve a very good result. Let's quickly dive into the video. The materials needed for this tutorial are your basic sewing tools and of course your fabric. I have just cut out the back panel of the shirt and it's unfold on the wrong side. So I determined the length of the shirt which I felt was long enough, and here I've also cut out the front panel which is about 1.5 inches shorter than the back panel. So to determine the width of this fabric, I used his chest measurement to cut out the width of this cloth and I added extra 2 inches, okay? So what you have here now is about, say, 22 inches for the back panel and maybe 20.5 inches for the front panel. And you know, children could have different sizes. Some could be chubby, some could be slim. So if you want to take your measurement, you know how best you can take the measurement. Okay, now as you can see, I have aligned the two fabrics, that's the front and back panel. Remember, the two are on fold each and they are folded on the wrong side. So I just grabbed my pin to pin the two this way. Now I'll be working on that upper part of the panels because that's where I'll be introducing the shoulder measurement, the neck width, and the rest of them. So first, his shoulder measurement is 12 inches. So I just grabbed my measuring tape to mark 6 inches. That's 12 inches divided by 2 gave me 6 inches. I marked 2.5 inches for the neck width and 2.5 inches for the neck depth, but I think it was almost too deep. So 2 inches or 1.5 inches for the neck depth will be fine. And again, it depends on the size of the child. When making for an adult, the neck width of about 3.5 inches and the neck depth of about 2.5 inches or 3 inches will be fine. So now that I've achieved that, I used a shoulder slope of about 0.75, then I connected it to the neck width, okay? To get his armhole, I just used his bust or chest measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. Honestly, it works. It's kind of a standard formula. To get the chest measurement, I just did my calculation. So the round chest measurement divided by 4 will give you the chest measurement. So when I achieved that, I just marked it and I had like almost 2 inches extra. So I just followed the same line downward because he's a guy, he doesn't have that figure 8 shape. So I just drew the same line downwards. Then I began to cut out. Then I also used my free hand to create the armhole curve. That was easy, right? So now that we have cut out the parts we don't want, as you can see, the back panel is still longer than the front panel. So watch what I did here. I just removed the pin and I made sure I aligned the lower part of this panel such that the two are equal on the lower part. Hope you are following, guys. So when you do it that way, the upper part will no longer be equal, but there's no problem. Just tip in the two together. This is what it should look like, guys. As you can see, the front panel is now shorter than the back panel and it also affected the armhole part. But there's no problem at all. So what you will do, just grab your scissors and cut out the excess armhole. That is the one at the back. Let it be equal with that at the front. You can also apply these same steps to adult shirts, it will still work well. For the front panel, I need to create a slit there so that his head can pass through. So I took a depth of about 6 inches. 7 inches is still okay. So that's me just marking it, and I'll just be opening that up to that point. So that's for the front panel. You don't do that on the back panel. So let me set the back panel aside and let's work on the front panel. We need to like cover the raw edges. That's the neck raw edges. We need to cover it up, and you do that by piping it. And there are ways you can actually pipe this shirt. Either you just get a piece of shirt or lining to cover it up. But trust me, I like doing things in an artistic way. Look at how I piped mine. I just wanted to put little effigy. So I just folded my fabric, that's the other fabric, down. I folded it into two. Then I placed the front panel on it like this. Just watch what I did, guys. So when I placed it, I just like cut out the excess so that it follows the same shape of the front panel. When I did that, you can actually decide on how long you want the length to be. So this one was more like a freestyle. I didn't even measure the length, but I made sure it's long enough to cover the slit I cut at the front. Okay, so it's more like I'm just replicating the upper part of this front panel. Can you guys see it? So again, I just decided to shapen it well so that any excess will go, like working on that armhole part. I decided to do that so that everything will be equal. Aside doing that, I also opened that panel up, the one I just introduced now. I opened it up to the same measurement or to the same length which I created the slit for the front panel. Again, I repeated the same step for the back piece. What I did was to fold that fabric into two, then I placed the back panel on it. I will just be doing exactly what I did for the front piece, but you may not necessarily have to make this one very long because there's no slit we are covering here. You can just determine any length of your choice, but obviously it should not be that long, okay? Just create something similar, more like replicating the upper part of this back panel. So that's all for that. This one doesn't have so much work like the front panel. Before we go ahead, I think it's time for me to cut out the sleeves. It's good to just cut out everything you need for your sewing so that when you start stitching, nothing's gonna hold you back. So after checking the measurement for the sleeve length and the round sleeve, I just folded my fabric that way. I like getting the two sleeves at once, but if you decide to cut out one first before cutting the other one, is fine. But me, I like achieving everything once. I will just fold my fabric into four as if I want to cut a 360 degrees flare. As you can see, I folded it into four because when I do it this way, I will end up having two sleeves. So this is me just trying to do a freehand cutting. I'm not using a pattern paper for this. I just did a freehand measurement and then freehand cutting. Then I just reconfirmed the measurement to see if I'm on track. So when I was done doing that, I just cut out the sleeves. Guys, I'm done cutting out the sleeves, so let's proceed to the stitching. This is the front panel. I'll be working on this first, and that's the piping fabric, let me call it that. But before I start piping, I will first of all hem the lower part of this piece so that when I attach it to the front panel, it will look very neat. This aspect is kind of tricky. All you have to do is to place the wrong side of the front panel on top of the right side of the other fabric. Then you go ahead to stitch on the raw edges. So when you are done doing that, you just turn it to the right side this way. That way you will not miss the position. So when I was done achieving this, I just went ahead to, iron it flat. And even at that, I still need to like stitch that part down, okay? So I just took it to the sewing machine to stitch it down. Don't also forget to notch before turning the fabric to the right side. This is the back panel I'm working on. I just repeated the same process I did for the front panel. Look at me notching this part. In case you didn't see me notching the previous one. So after notching it, I just like turned it to the right side. But before doing that, I also hemmed it just the way I did for the front piece so that it would be neat. Then when I was done hemming it, I just like placed it on it this way, and then I went ahead to stitch it down. But most times you don't need to do all this. I just wanted to make this shirt look different and look matured. I also went ahead to stitch the shoulder parts. That's the back part I'm working on. I'll do the same thing for the front part. For the front panel, I went ahead to stitch down the necessary parts as I have done. The next thing to do is to place the two fabrics together, that is the front and the back panel, and I'll be doing that with the two right sides facing each other. The essence of this is to like join the two shoulders together, as you can see. So I'll make sure I align everything like that. I will join the two shoulders that way, which I have done. So that's it right there. As you can see, the beauty of this shirt is coming out already. I also wanted to fix the sleeve, and that's it right there. So what you will do in this case, you make sure it is properly aligned. So I just notched that part, which I will also do for the sleeves. I will fold it equally, then I will also notch the folded points, the upper folded points. So those are the notches that I will align to, fix the sleeve. I'm done fixing one of the sleeves, but before I fix the other sleeve, I just felt like covering the stitch at the front. That fabric I used in turning the neck, I wanted to just cover the stitch there. I went ahead to get my bias to cover the stitch so that it will still look beautiful. It is not compulsory actually, but I just wanted to do it. When I was done doing that, I went ahead to fix the other sleeve. I'm now done fixing the two sleeves. I want to work on the front panel. That's the opening at the front. So what I did was just to get a fabric and I cut it out. I actually need two pieces of the same length. So the essence of this is just to cover that front part. As you can see, it's not a rocket science. You can just, DIY whatever shape you want to put or any design. So I've just placed two fabrics together like this with the two right sides facing each other. Then I went ahead to create that shape. So what I did was just to like sew on those lines that I drew. And when I was done sewing on those lines, I trimmed the excess fabric, okay, so that it won't be too thick. Then after trimming the excess fabric, I just turned it to the right side, or I just turned it inside out. You can put hair stay so that it will be firm, or you can use gum stay so that it will be firm, and it will have that weight actually. So when I was done doing that, I just gave it a good press. Then after doing this, I top stitched. I went to top stitch it so that it will look even better. I also went ahead to fold in the raw ends. When I was done doing that, I just placed it on the shirt to be sure of what I was doing. As you can see, this looks good. So I ironed the shirt so that it will have this flat texture. When I was done doing that, I just, placed that piece on it. I pinned it down. I'll just be sewing one end of that piece onto the fabric. Guys, we are almost there. So after achieving that, I just turned the fabric to the wrong side. I made sure the two panels were properly aligned, and I went ahead to transfer the measurements to be double sure of what I was doing. You can see me trying to get the accuracy because you don't want to make a cloth that the child will start saying, "Mommy, what's this?" This is me stitching down, and I made sure I reconfirm all the measurements. Note, while stitching, you will not just stitch all the way down. I stopped somewhere there, about 4 inches away from the original full length of the shirt. I also did the same thing for the other side of the shirt. So here it is, that opening that I just talked about. Here is me just trying to like hem it so that it doesn't look rough. So I look at what I just did there. Still on the wrong side, I just folded it in a way that it will be neat. I did like double folding, and then I went to the sewing machine to stitch down. I also did it for the other side. We are just like almost 95% done. It's very easy, right? So look at it, I'll just go ahead to stitch. I am done doing that, as you can see. So you can just trim like the excess fabric that you can see there if you want to. But if you feel your child will put on weight later, then there's no need. So me, I just left it like that. It's okay. It's okay when you turn it to the right side. The last part of this shirt, or the last part of this tutorial, is the aspect of fixing the press button. So I have press button. You can use any button of your choice. I fixed one part on that piece that I attached, that long piece I attached. Then I fixed the other part of the press button on the shirt itself so that the cloth doesn't open occasionally. So this one is needlework. You don't need a sewing machine for this. So it's needlework. This is me fixing the press button. When doing this, you make sure you mark the point where you'll be fixing it both on the covering and on the fabric so that it will be well aligned. It is not difficult at all to do. So when I was done doing this, guys, I went ahead to give it a good press. I hope this tutorial has been helpful and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, kindly give it a thumbs up. And if you are just coming across this channel for the first time, kindly join this beautiful family by hitting the subscribe button. And do not also forget to turn on your post notification bell so you will keep seeing my videos. Do not forget to like, comment, and share this video. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.